Hello everyone! Welcome back to another video. My name is Christina and this is Mike. And today we are doing a frontal face life cast.
Frontal.
Frontal. I mean, it is the front.
Yes.
Okay.
Full frontal.
It's a full frontal. It's not a full head. Okay? So yeah, if you want to see how we do a Alginate life cast, then please keep watching. Alright guys, so first and most important thing when doing a life cast of any sort, you have to prep your victim or your model, whatever you prefer. So yeah, we are going to get him prepped and ready for a mess. So first things first, I always like to take a piece of thin plastic like this, and we're going to drape it over his legs in front. I actually tucked it into his jeans too, just so that it doesn't pull off or away when I'm doing the life cast. So the second thing too is I just take a garbage bag and I cut out for a head and the arms. Now this is a small garbage bag for him, so you know, if you can get the contractor bags, I would prefer that, but this is all I have right now. So we're gonna put this over his head and tape it down. Hopefully it fits.
It's a trash bag shirt.
It is. Perfect. Next thing, we're going to tape it down. Now, obviously, if they have hair, you might want to use a less of a sticky duct tape, but a little trick someone taught me is you take some duct tape, put it on your arm, kind of make it less tacky, you know, pick up some lint, stuff like that, you know, just so it's a little less sticky. And we are going to pull it up as high as we can so we're not on his chest hairs, and we're going to tape it down. Same with the sides. And make sure it's tacked down to the skin because you do not want the alginate running underneath and onto the model's clothing. So now that that's done, sometimes, and you can, do a bald cap on your model. Now this is something I would probably do if I was doing it for a professional shoot or on a famous actor or actress, just to make sure there's no hiccups or no complications. But in this case, I'm just going to be doing a quick frontal life cast, so we are going to skip the bald cap process altogether because I am then going to correct his life cast. So in this case, I'm going to have him just pull his hair back as far as he can to kind of like slick it back a little bit. You can also use hair gel, hairspray, whatever. Slick back. We're slick. So the second and most important thing that you do not want to forget when doing a life cast, especially with the face, you need petroleum jelly. Now, what is this used for? This is going to be put into his eyebrows, any areas like the sideburns, anywhere there is hair, even the eyelashes, guys. Okay, alginate can pull hair out. Okay, it's not the strongest material, but it will and it can. So we are going to put this in his eyebrows, his eyelashes, sideburns, and any other areas that might be close to the hairline. And don't be afraid to use a lot. Sometimes more is better. You just don't want it to be all clumpy and gross looking. Same thing with the sideburns. Now ideally, when you're doing a life cast, you do want the model to shave completely down. Now they don't have to be bare shaved, but they definitely have to be a close trim shave, as close as possible, because you don't want it to make any imperfections in the life cast. Now, obviously, shaved would be the best way to do it, but in this case, I just had him shave his beard down and mustache as far as he could, so that he doesn't have to wait, like, I don't know, a couple days longer for it to grow back. Since he has sideburns too, I want to make sure they're nice and flat too.
Because sideburns are cool.
They are cool. Now we're gonna do his eyelashes. So I like to use just the thinnest amount on my fingers, and I'm just gonna have them open. I put it right under his eye. Now I'm just gonna kind of like rub it into the eyelash. Go on top, very gentle. Don't poke your victim in the eye or model.
Victim. you gotta decipher between victim and model.
I would say victim.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, because you are putting your life in my hands.
Mm.
Okay, we're moving on to the other eye, guys. It's okay if it gets on the skin. Honestly, it's totally fine. I just want to make sure that his hairs are protected for when it pulls out of the life cast. So once again, we're just going to slick back this hair a little bit. I'm only going to be taking the alginate right up to here, so obviously, but it's sometimes alginate can go wherever it wants, so it's always just good to have that extra precaution in mind. So now he does have some stubble, but that is not a big deal. That most likely will not come up in the life cast, and if it does, it can always be sanded down later. Done. So our victim, our model, is all prepped and ready to go. How do you feel?
Good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So ideally, when I'm mixing alginate or any kind of material, I don't always like using gloves because sometimes if the glove is slightly loose at all, just like this, it can pull off and it can pull away the alginate. So if you are going to have to use gloves, you definitely want to get a nice tight glove so that it doesn't pull off. But in this case, he's my fiance and I'm sure he doesn't care. So I am going to take the gloves off and I'm just going to use my bare hands.
Taking the gloves off.
Taking them off. This is alginate. This has been around for decades. I personally love using alginate. It's a very inexpensive way to life cast. Now obviously there's a ton of other different materials that you can use, like body double and stuff like that, that you can get the same results, if not better. In this case, we're taking it back old school. We're sticking with, you know, the old type of way to do a life cast, which is alginate. This stuff I got from monstermakers.com. I've been using this stuff for years. I absolutely love it. When you're mixing alginate, now it's always good to have more than less because you can't really add alginate into already existing mixed alginate because it just doesn't have the same consistency as it would the first time you mix it, if that makes sense. So always make sure you have enough alginate in your bowl. If there's leftover, great. So in this case, I used 2 cupfuls and a half just to make sure. Now 2 cupfuls could probably be good enough. And when I mean cupfuls, I mean like cups like this. Very heaping cupfuls. Like I said, you do not want to not have enough when doing a life cast because time is of the essence in this situation. Also, when I mix my alginate, I never use hot water. You should never use hot water when you're mixing alginate. It will sit up way too fast and you are basically going to have to start over and you're going to waste all your material. So what I like to do, use cold if this is your first time. Also too, if this is your first time doing a life cast, you should always have a secondary person with you that knows what they're doing. Okay, I am a professional at this. I've been doing these for years. Now, if I were to do a full head cast, yes, I would absolutely need another person there on hand to help me with just making the process faster. But if this is your first time, I highly suggest having somebody else there with you that knows what they're doing. Okay? So yeah, I'm going to be using cold water with this. You can use also very lukewarm water too. That will help with it setting up faster. But in this case, we want to make sure that it's done properly. We want to make sure it's done right. And just, we're going to use cold water. Now, my cold water has been sitting out probably for about an hour now. So at this point, it's probably almost room temperature, which is perfect. But you also do not want to make it super cold because depending on what body part you're molding, you do not want the person to get goosebumps because that will come up in the mold. So I got my alginate. I'm going to start mixing it and then we're gonna get started. Also too guys, make sure that you have all of your plaster bandages cut and prepared and ready to go. Now you can obviously do this while the alginate is setting, but once again, time is of the essence, so just make sure you have all your plaster bandages cut and ready to go, because if the alginate sets faster than you think, then you can start applying the plaster bandages. I got a nice consistency of my alginate. We're going to start laying. I always put the bowl right in the model's hands, and we are going to start. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, always keep an eye on that nose. Also rub it in around the nose. Rub it into the eye sockets. Do not make any faces. Make sure your victim stays nice and still for you and doesn't talk. You alright?
Mm-hmm.
Always make sure you talk to your model. It's always good. Sometimes I'll put my hand on their shoulder just to make sure they feel comfort. It can be a scary process, but I assure you, you are in good hands. It does feel heavy when you're doing a life cast, so. Alginate's setting already, guys. It's already setting, so I can't touch it anymore. I think I got it. That actually set up way faster than I anticipated, so that's why once it starts setting up and starts to get hard like that, you need to stop and walk away from the alginate. So I'm just going to clean up my hands a little bit. I'm going to take my leftover and I'm going to let it set up just for a little bit more before I go in with the plaster bandages. Now with plaster bandages, you can actually use warm water. It will help set up the plaster bandages way faster. So I always double, triple, quadruple, is that the word? Quadruple these up so it makes them nice and thick. Dunk them in the water. Take your fingers, drain the excess water. You do not want your plaster bandages sopping wet. I'm going to put one over the eyes, on top of the forehead, and we're going to lay it down the sides here. Make sure you rub the plaster bandages into the alginate. You want the plaster bandages to hold it like a cast. You don't want any gaps or anything like that, because this has to hold in place until you pour your hydrocal in it. It's always good to have scissors on hand too, to cut down if you need it. As close to the nostrils as possibly can. Now, I made these little strips. I'm going to take this little strip. This is going to be right for the fold in the nostril. I'm going to just lay it down the front. This gives it a nice support bridge. And I'm going to take one of these other folded small pieces. And it's going to hold it in place across the bridge of the nose. Just like so. I have another one. We're going to put that one right underneath the nose. Make sure you get the neck good. Almost done. So do one across the forehead and underneath the mouth chin area, and we should be all set. Is it getting heavy?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more, guys. Stay there so it sets up, and we're ready to demold him. Also, guys, when you're working with plaster bandages or any kind of plaster Paris or stone, you do not want to dump this in your sink. I have a bucket here. I'm going to dump it in there, and also I like to fill my bucket with clean water to clean out my bowls throughout any process in mold making. While it's setting, you can clean out extra alginate that might be lying around. All right, guys, the plaster bandages are starting to warm up, so that means that they're setting. It's still a little soft, so we're gonna wait a little bit longer. How you can tell when it's still setting up, if you can scratch it with your nail and it kind of like flakes and powders off like that and makes marks in the plaster, it's still not set. So we'll give them a couple more minutes and then we'll demold. You alright?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. While it's setting, I like to sometimes take my finger and go around the edges just to loosen the alginate. Ready to feel reborn. At this point, guys, it's pretty set up, so I'm going to ask him to start wiggling his face, making funny faces. Start moving your face around. And then I'm going to go around those edges, like I said, slowly. Pull away the alginate. And you want to start from the top. Sides. And slowly pull forward. Move your face. There we go. All right. Woo! How was it?
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah?
It was like being in a warm cave with no lights on.
So we have, guys, we have our life cast. Now, I'm going to take some of this excess off and everything. But for right now, we're going to lay some wet paper towels in here because you have to keep your alginate wet until you can start pouring it with hydrocal. This will keep it from shrinking, and obviously this is something that you want to do sooner than later, but you can wait maybe a couple hours as long as it's wrapped in wet paper towels. So I'm going to wrap this with wet paper towels. I'm going to clean him up, send him on his way, and then, yeah, then we'll do the hydrocal life cast part. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this life casting video with me. I put my wet paper towels here in my life cast to keep the alginate from shrinking. So if you guys want to see the next step to this process, please check out this video right here. Also guys, if you are not subscribed yet, please make sure you guys hit that subscribe button now so you guys don't miss any future videos. I'll see you on the next one.